This is Guizhou. In front of me is a cave entrance that looks pretty ordinary, but if we head inside, we'll see another side of Guizhou, one of China's most magnificent subterranean landscapes. Down here, there are rushing rivers and emerald lakes, deep gorges, vast chambers, hidden man-made tunnels, and palaces adorned with countless minerals. There are also numerous mysterious underground creatures, and even dozens of fossils of the national treasure, the giant panda. Its known length exceeds 400 kilometers, which is equivalent to the straight-line distance from Guiyang to Kunming, making it the longest in Asia and the third longest in the world. And it's still growing to this day. So why does Guizhou have this underground world? And what force created it? Welcome to Planet Travel, the Mountains, Seas, and Gold series. Join us as we rediscover the incredible mountains and waters of this land. This time, we will witness China's most spectacular subterranean landscape with our own eyes. We're here at Shuanghe Cave in Zuni, Guizhou. But unlike the caves we typically imagine, this place is at least tens of meters high. I can't even see the bottom. Instead of calling it a cave, it's really more like an underground canyon. So how exactly was it formed? Beneath my feet is an underground river flowing through the cave, even though it's the dry season right now. If I just take a couple of steps in, the water level is high enough to go right over my knees. Whoa! Hey, look at this! The water is dripping down from above just like a shower head. Where is it coming from? When you look around, you'll see that the cave walls are covered in these small, water-permeable holes. And behind these little holes is the primary force behind the cave's formation: water dissolution. In my hand is a rock I just picked up along the path. It's a type of dolomite, mainly composed of calcium carbonate and magnesium carbonate. And the rock walls all around us are basically made of this same type of rock. Now, what I'm about to take out are a patra dish we prepared to speed up the demonstration of the rock dissolution process, a dropper, and so on. Dilute hydrochloric acid. We're now going to drip this dilute acid onto the rock. Look, the rock is dissolving. And in nature, rainwater, which contains carbon dioxide, is also slightly acidic, allowing it to slowly dissolve rocks like dolomite. That's right, the vast majority of this water that seeps through the rock walls comes from the sky above. Abundant rainfall seeps down through cracks in the mountainside, riddling the underground rock with holes as it dissolves. Caves of all sizes begin to form. And deep underground, the rainwater gradually gathers into rivers. But that's not enough. When summer downpours gather into a raging underground river, it not only has the chemical power to dissolve rock, but it can also carry silt and gravel, just like rivers on the surface, and physically erode the deep parts of the earth. Hey, look at the side walls of this cave, and even the ceiling. They're all covered in these streamlined grooves, both big and small. In some places, there are also these round, hollowed-out marks. If you look down, it's all these pebbles, which have been worn incredibly smooth by the river water. Actually, all of this is evidence left behind by the physical erosion of an underground river. In this way, chemical dissolution and physical erosion combine to form a sharp sword of the underground river, carving out a massive network of subterranean canyons beneath Guizhou. The sounds of flowing water that we can hear everywhere are no longer just the sounds of flowing water. They are the sounds of the earth being dissolved and scoured away. The sound of Shuanghe Cave growing. Eventually, this converging water from the underground rivers, along with the minerals it has dissolved and the debris it carries, will flow out of the cave's mouth, merge into the Guizhou River, then the Yangtze River, and finally into the ocean. But all the underground rivers in Shuanghe Cave add up to only about 100 kilometers. So where does the 400-kilometer length come from? Clearly, the power of underground rivers alone did not create this miracle. To find all the answers, we must re-enter Shuanghe Cave from another dimension. This is another underground river in Shuanghe Cave, But what's different is, look, this is like deep well. And we are now at the very bottom of it. This type of landform is called a vertical shaft. In the underground world, a vertical shaft is like an elevator that can take you to different floors. Shall we go up and take a look? We finally made it up. As expected, there's another level of the cave here. But what's different is that there's no longer a steadily flowing underground river here, and the whole environment is much drier than the level below. But look, these layered rocks are actually covered in traces of water erosion. This means there must have once been an underground river here that continuously cut and dissolved the rock over a long period of time, eventually forming such a large cavern. But the question is, where has this underground river gone now? If we could turn back time, we would see that over the last few million years, the Guizhou landmass has been constantly uplifting, becoming a plateau while the underground rivers cut downwards relative to the mountains. The downcutting was especially intense in areas with fractured rock, eventually forming vertical shafts. And when the uplift became relatively gentle, it would erode horizontally to create new river channels, and the upper channels were consequently abandoned. What's more complex is that the dramatic uplift of the Guizhou landmass didn't happen just once, but many times. So when we look at a cross-section of Shuanghe Cave, we find that it's a three-dimensional network made up of 4 layers of passages. The bottommost layer is also the newest one, where you can still see the underground river flowing today. And the higher you go, the older the cave passages are, already having lost their underground rivers. Some are already covered with all sorts of bizarre stalactites. From top to bottom, Shuanghe Cave has a total height difference of 912 meters. That's comparable to any skyscraper in the world, and between these 4 levels of cave passages, there are hundreds of vertical shafts. They connect them like elevators traveling through time. This allows caves formed in different eras to gaze upon one another. However, in China's Great Southwest, all kinds of karst caves are everywhere. But there isn't a second one that reaches a length of 100 kilometers, let alone Shuanghe Cave at over 400 kilometers. How did it become so special? The answer, it turns out, lies deep underground, in this place where sunlight can never reach. This subterranean landscape of mountains and rivers has bloomed with its own flowers. It's said that just ahead of us is the most beautiful cavern in Shuanghe Cave. And hidden within it lies the ultimate secret of how Shuanghe Cave was born. Are you ready? 3, 2, 1. Have you ever heard the saying, "The sky's Zayan waits for the misty rain"? Imagine when ancient people stood in a cave like this. How breathtaking it must have been to see a sky of such a color. That's why this type of stone is also called celestite, or sky cyan stone. And this here is the largest celestite cave in the world. Unlike the dolomite we saw earlier, the composition of celestite is not a carbonate substance. Rather, it's a type of sulfate substance. And it is precisely these sulfate ions that will cause a magnificent sea of flowers to bloom. This is the Cave of Golden Flowers. Seeing this scene, only one phrase comes to my mind: a sky full of blossoms. Look, these walls are all covered in these glistening white crystals. They look just like flowers blooming from the stone itself. Their main component is gypsum, which is commonly used in hospitals to treat bone fractures. It's also a sulfate mineral and also contains sulfate ions. This means that the oceanic sediments from hundreds of millions of years ago not only formed the main body of dolomite composed of carbonate minerals, but also happen to have large amounts of sulfate minerals mixed in. When they slowly dissolve, they form groundwater rich in sulfate ions. These sulfate ions are able to steal the magnesium ions from the dolomite, turning them into a more easily dissolved substance, which in turn accelerates the dissolution of the dolomite. This is what ultimately allowed Shuanghe Cave to achieve its astonishing length of 410 kilometers. This is an advantage that few other karst caves have. Compared to the erosion of flowing water or the uplift of the earth, these microscopic chemical processes may seem insignificant, but they are the most unique force of all that formed Shuanghe Cave. What's even more magical is that these sulfate ions, after completing their mission, reprecipitate to form celestite and gypsum crystal flowers, blooming all by themselves deep within the earth. It is their existence that adds a sense of surprise and romance to this subterranean world, which can seem both rugged and a little dangerous. So, if you were to ask, what exactly created China's most magnificent world of underground mountains and rivers? How would you answer? Perhaps you would need torrential rainfall falling for hundreds of thousands of years. You would need a geologically active landmass uplifting again and again to form China's four great plateaus. You would need special ionic compounds with their foundations laid in oceans over 100 million years ago. Only when so many powerful forces come together can they fold vast stretches of time and space into the world below, creating an unparalleled subterranean landscape of mountains and rivers that most people have never witnessed. And that brings us to the end of this episode of the new classic of mountains and seas. If you enjoyed it, please like, share, and subscribe. Next time, we'll be visiting a place of ethereal beauty. We hope you'll join us then.